Hello everyone, welcome to the Valley News Now Network here. Duke Schindler catching you here on a great Wednesday afternoon. A little breezy here, but we got the great outdoors today, joined by Doug Leier of North Dakota Game and Fish. Doug, how are you doing today?
Enjoying a beautiful Wednesday afternoon, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some people don't like the gray skies and a little bit of wind, but it feels more like fall. It feels a little bit more like football, feels more like hunting season, and this is really kind of the weather that the hunters have been waiting for, is to get a little bit cooler temperatures, get a little wind, you put some clouds up there, brings the ducks and geese down a little bit. So this is just what the doctor ordered, Duke.
I love it. I love it. And we got plenty of things to talk about here today, Doug. Obviously, one that we've been talking about for quite some time here on the last few shows is the pheasant hunting.
Yeah.
We had the opener here not too long ago. Just tell me, Doug, from your point of view, how have things gone so far?
Well, our pheasant season opened up on Saturday, and prior to that, we'd had the youth pheasant season. So we've had a little bit of pheasant hunting under our belt, and just like everything else, the weather does dictate a lot of it. And it was kind of windy and warm on Saturday for the opener, a little bit of rain in some areas. But the good news is the hunters that were out there, they found some birds. So kind of typically as to what we expected to see, a little bit better numbers in total birds. And then with that, the corn harvest that is underway, and as that continues, should make for even better hunting as we move along. So it was a good start. I think that's what a lot of hunters would say, is it kind of lined up with the expectations. Pretty good bird numbers out there. The habitat conditions, not too bad. Some places a little bit wetter, some places a little bit drier. And there's been a good chunk of corn that's been taken off in the southern end of North Dakota, and as that continues to move north. I heard from a lot of hunters on the backside of the weekend. They were pretty enthusiastic about as the corn continues to come off, reduces the places for the pheasants to hide. And there's a lot of hunters thinking, hey, things are just going to get better. And when we combine maybe some more average, normal, typical temperatures and the weather with that, I think we may see the advantage shift a little bit more into the hunters. Right now, might be a slight edge to the pheasants. That's why it's called hunting. You know, somebody's looking for the advantage.
You got to find it.
Right, and so right now, I think there might have been a little bit of advantage to the pheasants because the corn out there and the weather. And as we are going forward into the backside of October, I think that advantage is going to shift. Advantage hunters. So if you haven't been out pheasant hunting, the good news is you haven't really missed it all. If you have been out there, things should be getting a little bit better, Duke.
Yeah, and then for the people who maybe just be thinking about this, about getting in the game, how long is this pheasant season open till? How long do they have before they can get out in those fields?
That's a good point, because our pheasant season in North Dakota is open until January 4th. And there's not a lot of people that typically think of spending Christmas time out pheasant hunting when it's white and it's snowy and it's cold. But the point in that is you haven't missed it. And we have a long upland game season, pheasant season, grouse season, partridge season, turkey season, even our squirrel season. And as we move, from October into November, and then we get to the backside, you start to see a little bit maybe less interest, less concentration. The birds get a little bit warier. They're a little bit skittish, so it makes it a little bit harder to hunt. So it's still a hunt. And you got different field conditions. You've got less competition, maybe less congestion, but the birds are a little bit smarter. And quite frankly, every time there's a pheasant in the bag, you got fewer pheasants that are out there. So you're subtracting a few pheasants every single hour as well. So that, to your point, if you missed the opener, you're busy this weekend. Our pheasant season continues on until January 4th, so you haven't missed out completely at all.
And then where would people be able to get a tag for this?
Okay, so here's one of the fun things. In North Dakota, like a lot of other places, we do really try to cater to the mobility of hunters. And we have an app, a Game and Fish Department app, and you can buy your license right on your phone. And quite frankly, we've had it happen where people wake up on a Saturday morning, they might have been at a football game, they might have been back home, and they're like, hey, I got an open afternoon. Let's go pheasant hunting.
We had some good luck on the football game. Hey, maybe this translates.
Right. There's more than one field that we're going to play on. We can win on Friday night. We can win on Saturday afternoon. We can win on Sunday. And that's one of the real advantages to this mobile electronic digital licensing that we have, is you can buy your license on the app. You can buy it online. You don't even have to print it off. You can download it onto your mobile device. I would suggest that you download it, save it maybe on the front of your page or on a special folder where you keep some of the other documents, because you can get into areas where you don't have mobile connection, cell service. And if you're checked by a game warden, your mobile license is valid. So you save it, you download it, so if you're in a valley, if you're in a place with poor connection, you can just pull it up off the download on your phone, show the game warden, and you'll go on your way. So, because that's just, it can save you maybe some Tylenol, maybe some headaches, and it can save you some time. And the game warden, they just want to check your license, make sure you've got it, and get on their way. So you can buy your license quick and fast and easy, but also make sure that you download it in an easily accessible spot, Duke.
And nothing more. Nothing that makes you sweat a little bit more when you're like, no, I got the license. I just let it. I need it to load here first.
I mean, I've been pulled over, and you're looking for your driver's license. Oh man, I know I got it in your registration. You know you have it. You put it in an easily accessible spot. And the other thing is, if you want to buy your license, you can print it off. So you could print one off, and you could print the license off and put it in your glove compartment, in your wallet. You could put it in. You could print off 3 or 4 of them, so you can have them, and you don't have to worry about being able to find it and produce it for the game warden check.
For sure. And then, as we have this corn harvest, maybe like you said, the tide shifts from advantage pheasant to advantage hunter. Do we know of any hot spots kind of right now?
Yeah.
Or are we just kind of expecting things to shift here, and then we'll kind of figure out if there's like a hot spot here?
No, and I think the traditional, best areas continue to be extreme southwestern North Dakota. Can you find pheasants in Cass County? Yeah. Can you find pheasants near Devil's Lake, Grand Forks? Yes. There's a lot fewer of them. They're a lot harder to find. I encourage people to get out. You're not going to find pheasants sitting in your basement. So get out there. If you've got just maybe a Saturday afternoon, you can go down to Richland County, Sargent, Dickey, Ransom counties. You can go out, an hour away. You can go out into Cass County. There's some public land opportunities. Now there's going to be competition. It may have been already hunted a few times this year, but there are pheasants out there. And for the majority of hunters, if you're looking to find stronger numbers of birds, you're talking about Regent, Mott, Hettinger, south of Dickinson, places up in northwestern North Dakota, Crosby. But again, south central, southeastern North Dakota, there's some pheasants around, but those traditional hot spots continue to remain. And in our area, I think if you adjust your expectations, you can still have a good hunt.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we still, like Doug said, plenty of time to get out there until January.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we want to shift a little bit here, Doug, into something you sent me here that was pretty interesting. We'll pull up the video right here. This is a peregrine falcon that was found just sitting in a driveway around 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Have you seen anything like that? Because, I've done stories on these falcons before, and the only time I've seen them was on very, very high elevated places.
Yeah, they are a fascinating bird, the fastest animal on Earth. They can reach speeds up to 240 miles an hour, and as you reference, just the uniqueness. These birds at one point were an endangered species. They've recovered to a point where they still have regular protection, but they're not considered an endangered species. And this video was found by Natalie early in the morning a couple of weeks back north of West Fargo, and it brings us to a couple of different discussion points. Number one, you never know what you're going to find. A number one, whether it's a moose in Fargo, a peregrine falcon in West Fargo, it doesn't matter. It might be 4 in the afternoon on a Thursday. It might be 4 a.m. on a Friday morning. And I always want to remind people, now this video was taken from the safety of inside a vehicle, and it was blocking a garage. Don't go out and try to find these animals. Don't go out and try to find a moose. Don't go out and try to find a peregrine falcon. If you do come across one, give it as much space as you possibly can. You might have to get into your garage. Quite frankly, if you've got to get to work and you got to get into your garage, that's legitimate. What we caution people is intentionally going out and trying to find animals to videotape and then posting that online. This to me is just fascinating because these peregrine falcons are an amazing recovery story, and it was probably about 30 years ago in Fargo, and then moving forward where they were found nesting in our version of skyscrapers, tall buildings in downtown Fargo, Bank of the West back in the day. And it's not just a Fargo thing. It's in Grand Forks. These peregrine falcons have nested in Grand Forks. Other cities that you're familiar with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was when I was in my former job in Wausau. They had this big plant up, right? And that was actually one of my first stories. I'm actually a pretty big bird guy myself, so I'm always there to take those type of stories. But they say that type of thing that you said. They like the tall buildings.
Yep.
And also they come back to nest in the same spot every year, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why do they choose that spot?
And they find themselves a safe place. And if it's successful one year, let's go back to it. You got a great quarterback. Let's keep the great quarterback. Let's keep on going back to it. We got a great
sign an extension on that
right,
on that place.
Right. And so the peregrine falcons that have been found around Fargo and Grand Forks and in other communities, they, as much as people don't want to hear it, they do a fantastic job of hunting. They eat pigeons. They also eat doves. They eat birds. They're an animal that is a predator, an avian predator, and to see them at work in the sky is absolutely fascinating. And I know people got to realize that nature's PG-13. Sometimes nature is rated R for violence, because to watch a peregrine falcon snatch another bird out of the sky, it's absolutely just fascinating to think of how that works. So we have them around Fargo. They'll be migrating. They migrate just like a lot of other birds, further south. But they do a great job of local predator control, natural local predator control. And if you've been to downtown Fargo, I mean, there's problems with doves, with pigeons. And they don't take care of all of them, but they do help reduce some of that population. So they're naturally occurring, and they're banded. If you do see a peregrine falcon, the falcons that have been nesting around here, that was one of the things that used to take place in Fargo as well, kind of that ceremonial. They would band the baby chicks, and there'd be media coverage of the baby chicks, and then they'd name them, and they would track them from year to year. They'd name them, and it's all kind of draws that interest and creates that support system for, at that time, some of the endangered species that we have had in and around our community.
And from your experience here, Doug, being around the area for so long, what was your kind of experience? Did you see kind of when the falcons were struggling to survive, their population was low and everything? And then from your experience, what was that rise back to relevancy like?
Yeah, and it's been fascinating, similar to the bald eagle, where everybody knows the plight of the bald eagle because of the national symbol. They recognize the peregrine falcon, but it doesn't get quite as much attention as the bald eagle. And when the peregrine falcons started coming back, I still had hair, if that puts in a little bit of context. So it's been fascinating to watch that recovery, and it's also good to get to that point where you recover a species. There was issues with insecticides, DDT, that were causing issues with the eggs of peregrine falcons, with bald eagles in the late 70s and into the 80s. And the Endangered Species Act, which affords that protection, was never really intended to give permanent protection. It was to protect that species, find out what's causing it. Is there something that we can do to correct it? And then can we grow that population, maintain that population, and then remove the endangered species status? And that's what's been so fun in my career, to see that happen to animals such the birds such as the bald eagle and also the peregrine falcon, and to see that right in our own backyard is really kind of cool. So if you see some acrobatic flying in downtown Fargo, it very likely could be a peregrine falcon. Again, going back to the conversation, Duke, we would ask that you do not try to get close to it. They are a vicious predator. You've been close to them. They have talons and they have a beak that I don't want to be anywhere close to without the proper protective gear.
They call them wild animals for a reason,
Yeah.
Doug. Make sure you keep your distance, folks. Enjoy it from a distance. Don't bother them. They are a predator.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, as you saw the population kind of rise back to relevancy, Doug, what kind of feeling did that just really give you? And on top of that, too, is that a good sign for other species that haven't been around North Dakota, that it may be a sign that they could end up coming back too and getting back to that relevant population?
Yeah, and I can't speak for every biologist, but I think it really gets to the heart. That's why we do what we do. I mean, we want to see people go out hunting. We want to see people go out fishing. We want to see respect for the resource. And then at the same time, when you see those different populations and those species that are suffering, that are in peril, what can we do within reason? I mean, there's, that's something that at times kind of gets, overshadowed by maybe some extremism. And what we like to really focus in on is there something that we can do that's logical, that's rational, and that can help recover a population, maintain a population, and maybe expand it so that it isn't a species where, oh, wow, we actually got to see a peregrine falcon. Same thing with bald eagles. I mean, I remember, even not so long ago, and I still, when I see a bald eagle, I stop and I point it out.
Every time.
Right. And you go back, years ago in the old film Polaroids, people would waste valuable, not waste, but they'd spend valuable film on taking a picture of a bald eagle. Wow, I saw a bald eagle. I got a picture of it. And now it's nice, you can see like at a baseball game or soccer practice, when a bald eagle flies overhead, people stop a little bit. And even 25 years ago, they might have just said, okay, time out. Everybody stop, look at the bald eagle. Now it's like game on, oh, there it is, cool. And you keep on playing. So it's really kind of a modern day success story that's really fun to be a part of.
And are these falcons just generally common in Fargo right now? And what contributed to their rise back to a stable population?
Yeah, so a lot of it was the protections from the Endangered Species Act and the removal of DDT, and then also along with that was the intentional focus on what can we do to help rebuild that population, and utilizing nest boxes in places of places like Wausau and Fargo, and when there were nest sightings on water towers in Grand Forks, and then there was the research and the science that went on behind that. So there's been a lot of, which is kind of typical. Like you don't necessarily see the demise of a population just due to one factor. There's several different contributing factors that come into play. And so when you can address some of those limiting factors, that's how you can see a population that can recover. And that's kind of all been part of the story, the wonderful success story, the victory of the peregrine falcon.
We love to see a great success story. We love to see a great success story. And then from the air to the land here, Doug, you wanted to mention here EHD being found in some deer. Now, just tell me what that's all about and what you guys put out here with the deer gun licenses.
Right, so EHD, epizootic hemorrhagic disease, it's a big word. We just go by EHD. Don't get it confused with another. There's so many different acronyms out there. CWD, that's a whole different issue. EHD, and this is something that pops up from time to time. I think it was a couple of years ago in western and southwestern North Dakota, and it's spread by a midge. And when the air temperatures get cold enough, it kills that off, and we see the EHD die-off kind of break. And that's what we're hoping has happened. But our management philosophy from Game and Fish is we want to issue tags for deer, for any kind of species, and that you have a reasonable expectation of filling that tag. We don't want to just issue tags, I went out there and there was no deer. So in the areas of southwestern North Dakota, there's 5 different deer hunting units where we've noted a significant die-off. Not as bad as it's been in past years, but what we've done is put the offer out there. If you're a hunter that's drawn a tag in those units, and you can check those 5 units out on the Game and Fish Department website, and you want a refund, you can get that refund. Now, we encourage you, don't just go ahead and get the refund, because sometimes it's taken 5 years to draw that tag. You might take a few years to draw that tag. You drew the tag, and now you're going, okay, now what do I do? Contact maybe some of the people that you typically hunt with out there, the landowners, because it can be very localized. There can be pockets where there's been EHD die-offs. There can be other pockets that weren't as susceptible. So if you call out to where you typically hunt at, you can find out. They might say, we haven't seen any dead deer around here. And the other side of it is hopefully with the return to more normal average fall temperatures, we don't see this EHD expand or have too much of an impact out there. But I appreciate you helping us get the word out to those hunters, because if last thing we want hunters to do is to draw that tag, head out west and go, oh man, I couldn't find any deer. And this affords you the opportunity. You do have to to ask for the refund prior to the regular deer gun season of November 7th, that Friday.
Okay, so got to make sure if you want a refund before the open season starts.
And what it does is it puts the responsibility on the hunter to say, I'm going to take my money back, instead of, oh, I went out there, didn't find a big enough buck, I think I'll get my refund.
Right.
And so that's kind of the parameters that we have in place.
So the disease itself doesn't really make them unhuntable, right?
Right.
It could just take out part of the population, which makes for a tougher hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. Is it's going to make it a more difficult hunt. And again, there's some hunters that just say, hey, man, I got the tag. It's been a few years. I'm just going to go out there, and if I find a deer, great. And if I don't, that's why it's called hunting and not shooting.
And then what kind of causes a spread itself? How does that disease spread?
Yeah, so it's spread by a midge or a gnat, kind of like what we call the no-see-ums around here. So you'll oftentimes find these deer maybe by water. It's exacerbated more in the warmer temperatures and the drier areas, so places that have been cooler and have had more precipitation, not necessarily, there still could be, but it wouldn't be as significant as in the places that are drier and hotter than what would normally be, because it's been a little bit warmer of a September, October than we typically have, and that always comes sometimes with the potential for an EHD, and that's what we've had happen this year.
And I suppose with the type of insects that carry it, once that cooler weather comes around, it kills most of them off, or almost all of them off.
Yep, absolutely, right on.
Interesting. And then for the hunters that are directly affected by this, you mentioned that they have to go get a refund before the open season. Who do they reach out to? Who do they contact?
Yeah, so you can go on the Game and Fish Department website, and you can click right through there and get that refund. You can call our Bismarck office, our headquarters office, and they'll direct you to licensing. I would also say, if you do find a dead deer, if you find anything that is of concern, you can actually take a picture of that. You can upload it on the Game and Fish Department website. We've got a wildlife mortality option where you can send that information in, the location, what you found, and the great thing about that is it goes to all the biologists and all the managers that need to find that information so they can verify what's going on, because those eyes of all the hunters that are out there are very valuable, and it really helps everything out from wildfires to EHD to avian influenza. If you see something, say something.
Definitely. And then once the biologists get that type of information, what are their next steps then to figure out how to get to the bottom of
so
this?
what it really helps us with is to determine where it's at. By sending in that information, we can start putting together pins on maps and find out how significant it is. How many different reports in this county, in this area, did we get one that's going to be a little bit further away where we need to start watching for some hot spots? Because, quite frankly, to try to get everywhere all the time, there's so many nooks and crannies. And when one pops up in a different county, okay, now we got to make sure that we're getting as much information so that we can determine just how significant these impacts are. And then what that does is brings that biological data into the Game and Fish Department to look for potential licensing changes in the future years. Did we have a significant mortality due to EHD? Do we need to pull back the number of licenses that are issued in that unit? So there's some biological information that we need that can help with some of the management decisions that we're making as Game and Fish.
Wonderful. A lot of things go on behind the scenes there.
Just like here.
Yeah.
Look around, man. This is it's kind of the same concept. I mean, what you see on the TV is the final product, and what you see go on behind the scenes, what you see in the hunting seasons is one piece of the bigger puzzle. That's the picture of North Dakota's outdoors.
Yeah. Takes days, weeks, and months to figure out that final decision.
Yep.
Of course. Well, thank you very much for joining me here, Doug. Is there anything else you have for the people out there?
Can't encourage you enough to stay safe, obey the rules, and enjoy North Dakota's great outdoors. It's a great time of year to get outside.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again for joining us here on Valley News Now and the Great Outdoors with Doug Leier from North Dakota Game and Fish. Doug, thank you for joining us once again. It's always a blast. And thank you for joining us on the Valley News Now Network. For Duke Schindler. We'll catch you later.